Monday, August 19th, 2019. This is the Pro and the Con Show. My name is Michael James Ott, and I'm your host for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Try to do a show every day, encouraging all of us to be better citizens, get more involved. If we really want to make this government for the people, then it's got to be by the people. And by the people, it's not just voting. It's doing more than that. It's understanding the issues. It's being open to opposing views, at least understanding them. And hence the show, the Pro and the Con Show. Pro and con, good and bad, for and against. And so a lot of times I'll go through some websites, some of them a little bit more liberal, some of them more conservative, and point out the bias in the coverage of the information there. But today I want to talk about, do a little Warren report here. So Elizabeth Warren. So I had the honor and privilege of going to my very first political rally. Never done that before. And so Ms. Warren was down in Iowa, and then she came up to the Twin Cities. She was in, it was Minneapolis. I was in Minneapolis yesterday, which is Monday. Actually, yeah, so this is a makeup. This is a makeup show. Anyway, so went there, big crowd, ended up being, they were estimating something on the order of 12,000 people. There were thousands of people, that's for sure. That is for absolutely sure. And the reason why I wanted to go was Ms. Warren is one of the candidates that I think is a viable replacement for Mr. Trump. Now, and I've said this in the past, I'll say it now because I don't know how many of my past videos you'll go back and watch or how many of my future ones you will, but Mr. Trump has a couple of serious issues in my mind. So one is, and both of these are not opinion, they're fact. So one of the issues is that he is a con man. He's a confidence man. Some people like that about him. He stands before you or any crowd and tells them exactly what they want to hear. And then there's a lot of people, well, he's lying all the time, blah, blah, blah. Well, he goes around telling people what he wants to, what he thinks they want to hear because he's manipulating them. He's judging what they're responding to, and he's giving them that so that they'll like him and they'll follow him, even to places that maybe aren't in their best interest, just like a con man. So a con man normally is bilking people out of money or whatever. And this is what Mr. Trump does and has done for decades. And the other issue, so con man, and then the other issue is clearly if you look at his speech patterns and his mental capability from videos and things from 20, 30 years ago compared to today, it's really clear that his mental capacity is greatly, greatly reduced from what it was 20 or 30 years ago. And so his vocabulary has been cut down to, some dozens of, pretty simple words normally. And it's more out of rote, mechanical things that, some of his favorite sayings or whatever keep popping out all the time. But it's, he's really actually struggling. He struggles saying words like lawmaker, anonymous, origin. And that this isn't just on occasion, this is on a regular basis. So I, regardless of the politics, I don't want a person like this being president of the United States. So we got, at least me, I'm definitely looking for a replacement. And, being open with you, hoping that you would at least be open to thinking about a replacement for Mr. Trump, given that these are two facts that most of us find to be disheartening. So anyway, back to Ms. Elizabeth Warren. So she's a senator. And so she had some tough times. So the rally is she came, and it was supposed to be like a town hall, so she was going to answer questions, but the thing started late. But we're going to talk in a few minutes about how the thing was organized, and they had a couple of failures there in my mind that they could have done better and more. But on the whole, I mean, it was a positive thing. I don't want to detract too much from that. But so she came. She started probably solidly half an hour late, maybe even 40 minutes late, and she talked a little bit about her childhood and her family, and some of the life-changing moments they'd had. They'd had some real struggles financially, step by step. And she then, when she got a little bit older, and she was graduated from high school and went into college, and then she got married, and she got started having children, and she was back and forth trying to go to school. And one of the things that was a consistent theme was that even though all these things were happening to her, she still had opportunity. Now she was working hard to get hold of those opportunities too. Don't think that these opportunities just were like handed to her. I'm sure she was working hard to get them, but they were there. And so anyway, so she's teaching school, and then gets her law degree, and gets certified as a lawyer, and then back to teaching. She was a college professor teaching law. And then she's always been, at least what she reports and what I've read, seems to be correct, is that she's been, kind of studying the degradation of the middle class for the last, I think there's people that would say solidly for the last 40 years, there's kind of been a general degradation in kind of the lifestyle of the working class, and this polarization of wealth has gotten even more polarized, especially here of late. It feels like the last 5-10 years, it's been getting worse, and now it seems like it's accelerating. Anyway, so then she goes through all this, and then she talks about she has a bunch of plans now, so she's addressing some of the symptoms that we have, and so some of them are pretty good ideas, I guess. So she's saying that if you make it super great, and you're in this country, and you're kind of in the extreme wealth area, so you have $200 million of net wealth, or $1 billion, or $10 billion, or $50 billion, or whatever. Well, then she wants to take 2% of that every year, 2 to 3%, depending on where you are, and 2 to 3%, and recycle that back into providing a hand up, if you will, opportunities for people that are much less fortunate. And she's arguing that wherever you are, the success that you have was built on the backs of all of us. So there's 340, I guess I heard the other day someone said 350. Anyway, there's something around 350 million Americans, and there's a tremendous amount of us that are police and firemen and nurses and engineers and on and on, and all of us are contributing to the society that we live in. And so if you make it super big, you should be gracious and give a small amount of that back, so that this net of people that are much less fortunate than you can have a decent life. Okay, sounds like a fairly reasonable argument. And she's got lots of other plans, and generally my perception was that she seems to be genuine. She seems to be working hard to try to do some things. for the general public, and especially those that are less fortunate than the people that are most fortunate. And that's good. But I still, me personally, it's okay to address some of these symptoms, but I still go back to, we'd be better off addressing the root cause. Okay. And one of the things I wanted to mention about yesterday's show, I talked about the pros and cons of Mr. Trump. And actually so I'm doing this quick aside here, and then I'll come back to Ms. Warren. So one of the pros of Mr. Trump is actually he's been an acid test. So what is an acid test? Well, it's kind of like a destructive test. It's, like a worst case, do something to try to destroy it and see whether your design, your thing, whatever it is, survives. And I look at our system of government with the branches of government and stuff like that, and I look at inserting Mr. Trump into one of the most important positions in that government, and we're only maybe 16, 17 months away from surviving. I mean, some of you would argue that we've been thriving, but at least surviving, having what is, a pretty stone cold, detractor of what government and what leadership should be, inserted into one of these locations in our government. And, I think it's a testament to the construction of the overall government of this country, that we're doing okay. And again, some of you might be arguing that we're doing better than okay. Well, fine. But for those of us who are much less enthusiastic about Mr. Trump, we're at least making it through. And so, to me, it's the government, the structure's right. It's how we get the people into the structure, the people that we're inserting in here, people who would be king, like Mr. Trump, who is, on that scale of who would be king, he's a, 11 on a 10 scale. There's lots of other politicians that are maybe a 2 or a 3 on a 10 scale. But anyway, and so election reform, something more like jury duty, blah, 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 blah. You can watch my other videos for that. But anyway, that's one of the root causes of our problems in government is, these two parties and all the stuff that we go through because of the, infighting between the two parties. And so now, we could address that root cause by fixing the whole system. And like I say, the best way to think of it is kind of like jury duty, only, more complex in the sense that all of us are voting on these candidate pools that we randomly choose, as opposed to a judge and some trial lawyers, kind of parsing through a candidate pool of jurists. Okay, so back to Ms. Warren. So I personally think she's a pretty strong replacement for Mr. Trump. In fact, I personally would envision and believe that she would be a massive upgrade to him. Now, I said I was going to say a few other things about this particular rally. So I went there, there's a long line, there's lots of volunteers, but they're mostly just trying to make sure you're authorized to go into this rally. But boy, they missed a big opportunity. I was there on site for like 3.5 hours. By the time, you get there and try to get a good place, in this area that they're going to have this event, and then you wait, and we're out in the hot sun and all this stuff. And they could have done so much more. Like when we're in line, those volunteers could have been talking to people about what issues affect them. They could have been doing surveys, trying to understand better what, because we're here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So what are some of the top things that concern you? And, they could have had people, electronically, they could have, surveys or whatever that, man, they had thousands of people that standing there with nothing better to do than to talk to somebody about, and they're there to, hey, I want to participate in my government. I'm here to see a potential candidate. I mean, come on. Don't waste that opportunity. But yet they did. They totally wasted that opportunity. And then eventually there's, whatever thousands of us, the campaign said they thought there was around 12,000. It certainly was many, many, many thousands. I don't know. I don't personally, it's hard for me to judge. But sure, it was for sure more than 5,000 or 8,000 kind of thing. I don't know. But the important thing is now we're there, right? So we're all there, and we're waiting for Ms. Warren to come up on the stage and start talking to us. And they have some music playing, but wow, why didn't they have like an opening act? Why didn't they have a person get up there that was energetic and this person, man or woman, wouldn't have been any problem, could have got up there and talked about Ms. Warren, or talked about some of the plans that she's already proposed and why they're important, and why we should support them, or could have got up there and just done some stuff to, that was fun. They could have, let's practice our cheering, or let's, let me tell you a couple of jokes. Here's this, or here's that, or I was on the campaign trail and I saw this, and it, I had to laugh because this happened. All that kind of stuff. We had thousands of people waiting around this stage for solidly an hour and a half, some of us. And again, yeah, there was a couple of times where somebody came up and spoke for 30 seconds or 2 minutes or something, but wow, another wasted opportunity to really have some communication there with thousands of people that were there, obviously dedicated to try to be better citizens, to be more involved. So don't waste those opportunities in the future. I don't know if anyone from the Warren campaign or any of the other candidate campaigns. Wow. Don't waste those opportunities. Don't waste them. Well, anyway, so for Monday the 19th, this is Michael James Ott, the Pro and Con Show. And until the next show, bye for now.